Hi, I'm Rachel here with my cat Leia, and I'm doing the BookTube Newbie Tag. I'm really an imposter to this tag, as I've been making BookTube videos for over a year now. But I'll use this tag to explain my story. Number 1, why did you start this channel? Roughly a year and a half ago or so, I was listening to the Guardian Books podcast and the Aspen Public Radio First Draft podcast and similar shows. From there, I started wanting to listen to more author interviews, so I went to YouTube. At first, I wasn't really interested in people reviewing their books, but then folks like Rincey at Rincey Reads really started to draw me in with their casual, friendly styles. Stuff like book hauls and the read-alongs made reading feel like a fun community event. Also, at Rincey introduced me to Book Riot, which is awesome. So I sat on the idea of joining BookTube for reasons that I'll go into later. I ultimately decided to join relatively privately and make personalized videos to supplement my reading blog. But meanwhile, I started to find more and more people on BookTube to watch, and I loved their videos and conversations with one another. So at the beginning of 2017, I decided to become a little more active. I made more popular videos, like reading wrap-ups and hauls, and I reached out to a couple of people and got myself a handful of subscribers, which, thank you! And now I'm doing the BookTube Newbie Tag as a belated attempt to introduce myself to even more people. So I guess it's less like being new to the community and more like being introduced to society after a maturing process. Number 2, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to BookTube? NaNoWriMo videos. I actually did migrate a bunch of those over from a video platform that I used several years ago. Okay, a serious answer, because everybody makes NaNoWriMo videos, especially in November. When it comes to adult lit BookTube, I think most of us have specific niches of interest. For me, that area is Jewish fiction. I try to keep up with contemporary Jewish fiction published or translated to English via the Jewish Book Council website. I also read a lot of backlist, and one of my projects for this channel is to review the winners and nominees for the Sammy Rohr Prize in Emerging Jewish Literature. The prize alternates annually between fiction and nonfiction, and I'm promising myself to get to nonfiction too, someday. I think that one thing that some folks might not realize about Jews is that despite our small numbers, we've actually lived in several places around the globe. Last year, I read a couple of novels about Jews in Iran, a book of short stories about Yemeni Israeli Jews, and so many books about Russian American Jews. Oh, so many books. That last one probably isn't so shocking. But just the other day, I was listening to Sharifa on a Book Riot video, and she was talking about the novel Peony by Pearl S. Buck. It's a historical novel about 19th century Kaifeng Jews, which... The Kaifeng Jews don't exist anymore, but they were in China for centuries. I also have a pet project that I call Jews in Space. I like looking for Jewish culture in science fiction and fantasy. And lo and behold, Rachel from Colonnati was hauling the cyberpunk Arthur C. Clarke winner, He, She, and It, and she mentioned that there's some Jewish culture in this. And I'm like, a what? Jewish cyberpunk? I'm so there! So I guess I'm saying that even though I consider Jewish fiction to be relatively unexplored territory on BookTube, you guys are an invaluable resource for me. And of course also for my general fiction tastes, like in literary fiction, speculative fiction, and the occasional YA fantasy or sci-fi adventure. I have a few of those on hold as audiobooks. In terms of channel focus, I also have or want to try spotlighting short story collections, literary journals, and novellas published by small presses. I'm in the process of writing a novella right now, so yeah, I should get on that. Number 3, what am I most excited for on this channel? I think a lot of this answer is in what I've mentioned before. A chance to talk about books and topics that I love, and the chance to get some promising recommendations. And in general, I hope I can be part of the BookTube conversation and interact with some people. Number 4, why do you love reading? Fiction and Judaism are rather intertwined for me. I understand the world best through narrative. I love stories that explore ethnic identity and broader society. I love stories with multiple POV characters so that you can understand the narrative from different angles. I love stories that probe the themes of what it means to be human, to have relationships, to struggle physically and or mentally, and to grow and change in complex ways. I love literary fiction that explores this on a micro level and speculative fiction that explores this on a macro level. Plus, I'm a fiction writer. And yes, sometimes I'm inspired by reacting to a novel with, "That isn't what should have happened, this should have happened." But in general, I love fiction because I want to be part of that conversation. I don't think I love nonfiction the same way, but I do respect that thrill of learning something new. Number 5. What book or series got you into reading? Oh boy. I had some developmental delays when I was young, and I remember my mother guiding me through a set of young reader stories. I always hated it when she stopped me for mispronouncing a word. I was engrossed and wanted to get through the rest of the story. I think the earliest book I remember loving was a bright green book of fairy tales. I especially loved that my sister had a dark red companion book. Then somewhere in my preteen years, I remember begging my mom for new Babysitter's Club books whenever we went to the bookstore. I was so excited by those familiar checkered covers from the 90s. It was like returning to old friends. But the author who started me seriously down the reading path was Mary Downing Hahn. She's a prolific children's author in Maryland who mostly writes ghost stories now, I think. She was more diverse in the 80s and 90s, and often wrote stories about awkward, lonely girls confronting what it meant to grow up into a teenager or a young adult. I devoured those books as a young teen, and I still call Daphne's book my favorite book. I remember my mother packed it in my Camp Moshava trunk in 1995 with a personalized message. I think that book is somewhere in her house still, hopefully. Number 6. What question would you ask your favorite booktuber? I don't really think I have a favorite booktuber. There are just so many of you, and you're all so awesome. I'd ask you to chat with me about books and literature. Since I've actually been here for over a year, maybe I'd ask old booktubers to come back. Another one of the first booktubers I stumbled across was Ashley from Climb the Stacks. She primarily read modern American classics and memoirs, and her reviews were so detailed and thoughtful. I wish you'd come back, Ashley. And finally, number 7. What challenges in starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest for you to overcome? Honestly, despite all I've raved about community, it might be difficult for me to pull my end. I often listen to a lot of BookTube videos in batches during a time when I can't really take the time to leave comments. It's a little more of a hassle to go back and leave comments later, but of course I should. I probably should find more new people to watch consistently too, because the more popular folks, understandably, are already busy with the people and friends that they've met. In terms of my own channel, I have to wonder if my frequent focus on backlist Jewish novels might keep people away. I mean, I know for my own tastes, I'm drawn to watching videos about new releases in literary fiction and YA to see what people are saying about them. And often, when I don't know a book, I won't leave a comment. So it's a balancing act, I guess, because I want to talk about my own little niche, but I also want to find some of you guys to talk to. Also, my technological setup isn't the best, so meh. In general, I guess I'm not sure where my place is here, even though I'm not a technical newbie. But I am very curious in what the BookTube community means to you, both to newbies and to oldies. Please let me know. On the bright side, no matter what the book content, hopefully some of you will stick around to see my companion over there. She often gets up to cute shenanigans, I promise. That's about it for now. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this not-so-newbie tag. Happy reading, and I'll see you next time.